For those of us who love statistics, there is a grave error that is made continuously in the manosphere. Many mention it, but few correct it. According to William James, a known philosopher and psychologist, we must be careful not to confuse data with the abstractions we use to analyze them. And the manosphere, like screaming seagulls, love to tout their use of quote unquote data, love to paste on their bread of wealth that they are systematic and logical in their approach to discussing male female issues, that science is the tibia of their thoughtful
Don't
thinking.
get married. No, if men don't get married over the age of 35, apparently there's only a 15% chance they'll get married ever.
Because they're emotionally available.
I want to ask this
They don't
question.
want it.
No, because we've all made ourselves so available, running the streets or whatever, it's streeting. So the men, it's like, why would he settle down when there's 10 of you? You know?
Everyone's for sale. Like, I get but
The whole thing is a market. It's not just women. It's just everybody.
100%. But just for me personally, like, maybe call me delusional, call me naive, but I just hate the whole hookup culture idea that is so normalized today. That doesn't sit right on my conscience whatsoever.
Whose fault is hookup culture?
Pardon?
It's the women's fault.
I think it's
Women,
a problem on both sides. I don't think
what percent of men can partake in hookup culture? What percent of men get laid?
I don't know the statistics or the facts, but I don't think it's a certain sex to blame. I think it's a problem shared on both sides.
Not true. 51% of black men are single and childless. 64% are in the middle class. That is plenty to provide.
Okay.
Blackdemographics.com, black stats by black people for black people. This one's going to hurt.
To get a full scope of the mistakes that the manosphere makes would be assuming that I, the theorist, do not have a life. And in assuming that, it would mean that I could have searched across the pearly plains and into the sneaky villas of Lord Fit and his groom of the stool, Sire Fresh. I would have to be a full-time YouTuber, which I am not. I would have to be a YouTuber with staff, which I am not. But you can let me be that in the next 5 years by liking, sharing, and subscribing. The most prominent mistake that is made is an ethical one. Though ethics is rarely mentioned in the field of the manosphere, it is an element that is important to the practice of science, which they love to claim so much. When men recruit girls around the age of 20 to 25 and ask them taxing questions, the way that it is done, the way that it is presented, one can simply say, hey, this is really a focus group being conducted. Though it is entertainment, as a focus group, whether you agree with me or not, there is a risk of harm that may be incurred. One can also say, those girls are there by choice and know what they are signing up for. But do they? Given that they most likely are not the followers of Fresh and Fit and the whatevers, especially if they are new to the arena, these girls may be subjecting themselves to harm in their lives for the sake of saying we are offering a level playing ground in conversation. But the platforms are neither level nor grounded. Proposing studies done by PhDs to persons who have had a basic university degree and in many instances a simple high school certificate is harmful. To ask a person who cannot read to read all the signs on the map to a location while you drive knowingly is unethical. The mental capacity of the struggling OnlyFans presenter, formerly a barista, is not at the level of Pew researchers who are quoted continuously. Accordingly, harm may constitute many aspects. Information that is disclosed may lead to embarrassment, shame, stigmatization, discrimination, disruption of existing social relationships, or adverse employment consequences, and in some cases, participants may face legal action as a result of information that is made public. Warwick, 1982, all quoted by Sim and Waterfield, that is 2019. All these girls can offer are anecdotes, stories they have seen in their warped lives, the same lives that they have to go back to after the show. Though the YouTube platforms not be confidential, these girls hopefully would be explained while getting their consent the lifelong effects of appearing on the channel. It is hoped that the Manosphere, the scientists that they are, took their due diligence seriously. In quoting stats, the Manosphere also loves to say anything and everything, and I mean anything and everything, without any context. They pluck their data points and run with it, like Oliver Twist stealing in a market. One perfect case is in the Black Manosphere, with their favorite statistic: 51% of Black men are childless. They keep forgetting to add that actually that number applies to all men. Given that Black men pose a minority in the United States, one with a little math can also assume how large the percentage of other races would have to be that wouldn't have any children to maintain the total percentage at 51. One more string that I have to pull at their favorite ball of yarn is that the number is for Black men under the age of 18. The percentage actually falls incrementally as a man, Black or any other race, gets older. Context. Not just a bad message from your annoying ex-girlfriend, is it? In using their lovely numbers, there is a realization that they refuse in many instances to accept. Predictions are based on current information. Anything can change now, and that thing that could change the now can also change the future. Recently, there was a stat used by the Manosphere from Morgan Stanley that says 45% of women aged 25 to 44 will be single and childless by 2030. Oh my gosh, 7 years away. We should all be afraid. A great effort, I am sure, went into the model, but any statistician can tell you scenarios. Scenarios? What scenario? What is the scenario? Is the scenario based on the hellhole of a life that we currently live in 2023? If it is, note that there are many other things that can be modeled. We have 7 years for something, anything, to change, and that can change. A disease can wipe out most of the men, allowing women to be in demand again. God forbid, fingers crossed. The possibilities are endless, and unless Morgan Stanley applied the continuous and ever changing data and artificial technology that Google, for example, has, the resulting model cannot be definite. And again, bringing this home, context. The Manosphere took this stat and put all the blame on women. If they bothered to take a look, the study was done in 2019. before COVID 19, given the deaths that occurred during COVID, and according to Dr. John Campbell, are still occurring, who knows where we are at today with respect to such a disruption? Putting aside the source as well, Morgan Stanley and their great team is still part of a private investment company that may have their own bias. And the bias shows in terms of their intent of the study. The study was meant to assess the role of women as laborers and consumers, and therefore did not present any causal attributes to their predicted phenomenon. This leads to the last mistake I'll present done by the Manosphere. Though there are many more errors like these, and I'm going to list them out very quickly. Poor chart interpretation, outdated sources. 10 years back is the minimum you should be looking at, and in some fields, actually 5 years back. So we should not be, and this is to the lovely jewelry maker named Pearl, we should not be quoting 1992 data. Again, and going on, not discussing presented study limitations, reliability of resources and sources not being examined, confusing the meaning of data with the meaning of statistics. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Every time they said data, they should have been saying statistics. Going back to my real last point, not one study have they ever presented looked into causality. Every study that they have ever used was to justify their echo chamber or their filter bubbles, which from a scientific viewpoint makes sense. More values are attained when viewership is partisan. But this is something that the Manosphere failed to realize. Only up to a point does this work. After that particular point, you begin to lose value in sharing poor and low quality information, which may explain why the Manosphere is imploding at this point very slowly. In going out, the Manosphere does have persons who do justice to numbers. Well, really, I've only actually seen one person, and that's the man called Media Man. And since the Manosphere has little overall understanding of how to use information, data, stats, whatever else they'd like to call it, here are some quotes from the greatest thinkers to help you get to that point. According to R.A. Fisher, if we choose a group of social phenomena with no antecedent knowledge of causation or absence of causation among them, then the calculation of correlation coefficients, total or partial, will not advance us a step toward evaluating the importance of the causes at work. In simplified terms, without causation, you're just rambling. 2. From one of Barbara Doyle's professors. If you need statistics to prove it, it ain't true. And lastly, the last quote that I will be using, this is the perfect description of the Manosphere and the Manosphere representatives that poorly use statistics. Andrew Lang. He who uses statistics as a drunken man uses a lamppost for support rather than illumination. Perfect example of what some Manosphere members do. This is the theorist.